Hey, you found us, and you're about to get a dose of Jersey Oddness you didn't know you needed. Smash that follow button like a seagull on a boardwalk fry. It's time for the Jersey Oddcast with Joseph F. Berenato, Gabriel J. Donio, and me, Gina Rullo. What's happening, fellas?
I feel badly for the fry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got nothing at the moment, but it does paint a picture that most of us are familiar with. Absolutely.
I'm trying new intros to see what I like and see what the people like.
Okay.
Certainly
Well,
stands out as
yeah.
something.
Yeah, and most of the people like boardwalk fries. It'll resonate.
I like,
We see a bit of goodness.
Yeah.
I like Curly's fries. Mm.
I've always loved a nice, good, salty, crinkled boardwalk fry. Always.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah,
And so do the seagulls, apparently.
they do.
Let's come a little inland to Egg Harbor City, where an Egg Harbor City man was sentenced to 15 years in New Jersey State Prison for the 2023 homicide of an 8-year-old. Edward Johnston, age 26, was sentenced last week to 15 years in New Jersey State Prison for aggravated manslaughter for causing the death of 8-year-old Javier Javi Velez in Absecon on July 23, 2023. During the early morning hours, after drinking alcohol all evening at multiple bars in Atlantic City, the defendant attempted to drive home on the White Horse Pike, Route 30, according to the press release from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. Due to his substantial intoxication, the press release said, he failed to negotiate a curve, veered off the roadway, and struck a parked car. At the time of the crash, the defendant was traveling 107 miles per hour. The victim was asleep in the car while his father and younger brother were fishing nearby. On February 27th of this year, the defendant pled guilty to aggravated manslaughter. The plea agreement called for a sentence of 15 years in prison. Last week, the Honorable Joseph Levin sentenced the defendant to 15 years subject to the No Early Release Act, meaning he must serve 85% of the term before becoming eligible for parole, according to the press release. Javi's parents, Kayla Smith and Orlando Velez, gave impassioned speeches at the sentencing hearing on behalf of their son. They spoke of their grief and the impact of his preventable crime had on their entire family. Two of Javi's aunts also spoke on behalf of the family, according to the press release. And I just thought that was like a really, I don't know, like it wrapped up in 2 years, but there's so much grief still going on with the family. And again, it was preventable, it's drunk driving, and I don't know. I just don't know what to say. I don't understand how people do it. I really don't.
No, and at this point, everybody knows the perils of drunk driving. Everybody knows you reach a certain limit. For me, I don't like to even have one alcoholic beverage if I'm going to be driving. But on top of that, to be traveling in excess of 100 miles an hour, all of this was avoidable. All of this was preventable. And for my money, my math with percentages isn't all that great, but 85% of 15 years is just over 13 years. I don't know if that's enough. I really don't, given the outcome of what happened. But
I'm inclined to agree that it's not enough because this gentleman made poor choices that took away that child's future.
yeah,
And what is the price tag on that? Okay, 85% of 15 years. And Joe said, we all know about the perils of drunk driving, but it sure still doesn't seem to stop people from getting behind the wheel of a car, going at an excessive rate of speed, and taking out a young person who will never, that's it. His whole family has a hole in their family
yeah,
because this guy decided to, that night he was going to drink to excess to a point where he was obviously so impaired he didn't even know what he was doing. But he didn't. If you'll notice, I didn't read where he got injured too badly, and certainly he wasn't killed.
yeah.
So that's the real irony in all this. So yeah, to me, it's not enough of a sentence because you took away someone's entire existence on a whim.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree. I wonder if they did the plea deal to spare the family the cost, the emotional toll, emotional cost of going through a trial.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying
No.
to you that we're just saying tack some more years on
Yeah.
because,
That's exactly it. And it's my understanding, and this may be anecdotal, but it's my understanding that often the drunk driver in question sustains fewer injuries than others because the alcohol has their muscles relaxed and
right,
they yield more in an accident.
right,
Yeah, because if you see it coming and then you brace, it's like the worst thing they say you can do.
Yeah.
But this child was sleeping, so he was pretty relaxed, I would imagine. It's just an awful set of circumstances,
right.
and
But if you, it doesn't matter how relaxed you are, if you get hit by a car going 107 miles an hour,
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you're at the point of impact. I think Joe's point is, as I've often heard that, Joe, which is there you're so loosey goosey behind the wheel because you're loaded,
Mhm.
okay, and so when you hit somebody, you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
It's but the people and that's always the irony of drunken driving or drinking and driving. To me, is that a lot of times the people behind the wheel who are drunk don't get hurt
Yeah.
and they hurt other people and kill them, as in the case of this young man. So,
in other news, and still not cheerful news, a student and guardian were charged after the child, a student, brought a weapon to Winslow Township Elementary School on May 14th, according to published reports. According to the reports, the officers went to the school, which would be Winslow Township Elementary School number 5, at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on May 14th after, excuse me, the weapon was seen. According to the published reports, the student was showing his classmates his quote unquote BB gun, the police told a couple of media outlets. And according to the reports, the BB gun was later identified to not be a BB gun, but to actually be a handgun unloaded. And from there, they obviously charged the guardian and the student. And according to the police and the published reports, there weren't any threats made against the school or staff or the students. Like, it doesn't say the age. I haven't seen the age of the student within this case, but I'm like, come on, guys. Aren't we checking backpacks? Why are we leaving weapons out where students or kids can get to them? Elementary school max age is what, 12?
I
They
think
should not
so.
be anywhere near that.
this continues the discussion of we all have heard many times don't drink and drive. And we have all heard many times lock up your firearm
Yeah.
so that the kids can't get at it or anyone can't get at it because it's a weapon.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want, and I don't, the motivation of the kid bringing it to the school is a whole other thing. A lot of times that's just showing off, or God forbid that he was trying to. Maybe you don't know. Was he being bullied? Did he bring the gun as like a way to fend that off? You don't know
Yeah.
yet. But
Or
I'm saying to you is there's no way the gun should ever get into the hands of a kid under 12.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even if it was as innocent as the kid said, if he thought it was a BB gun, if he was 5, 6, 7 years old, okay, then that takes away malice from the kid, but it still doesn't answer why he had access to it in the first place. Thankfully, it was unloaded, so at least there's a modicum of responsible gun ownership there, but it should have been locked up. And if it was locked up, then the student shouldn't have been able to have the combination or the key to wherever the hell it should have been locked.
Yeah, and I'll say at this point, I understand that, oh, I thought it was a BB gun. Why are you bringing a BB gun to elementary school? Is an elementary school a place to bring a BB gun? I don't
No,
think it's that either. So
no,
if that's your excuse, which is, oh, I thought it was a BB gun, my answer would be, yeah, we don't really allow those here either.
no.
So,
I don't even think cap guns are allowed anymore if they still make
yeah, if
those.
they still make them. So really, you just, again, I understand it's a kid, but the flip side is I look at the guardian, the person who obviously had the weapon
Yeah,
and did not properly secure it.
yeah,
That's where this started. So,
yeah.
Before we continue on with our show, Gabe, can you tell our listeners how they could find the best place in town?
Gina, they should go to Crowley & Carr Real Estate. If you're looking to buy or sell your home or commercial property in South Jersey, call Phil Carr, owner of Crowley & Carr Real Estate. Crowley & Carr is the best place in town to find the best place in town. Call them at 609-561-0505 or go to Facebook or Instagram.
Thanks, Gabe. I read about how Atlantic County Executive Dennis Levinson, or Denny as we call him, wants to see Atlantic City's airport use expanded. Can you tell us some more about that, Gabe?
This came out of the Newark thing, which was that essentially we've been having a lot of problems with air traffic control. Denny, being opportunistic, essentially said, look, we've got a 10,000-foot runway that can take the biggest jets you want to take, because we have the FAA Tech Center here and we have that airport park that they have. And essentially, he, I think, was making his best effort to draw attention to the airport. But by the same token, I think he's legitimately trying to get the runoff and get them to use it. I don't know how successful that'll be, but I know that he did make very clear and publicly that it was available. And if they needed it, they could use it.
Yeah. You think about, we have the 177th Fighter Wing right here. They're adding on to the amount of cargo storage at the airport in Atlantic City, I think. So there's a lot of benefits for coming to AC's airport and using it. It's not really in Atlantic City for anyone who is never been there, but it's a great resource. It's close to Newark, relatively.
Yeah.
It's close to Philly. There's something to be said for that.
Definitely. Go ahead, Joe.
If they do want to expand commercial offerings and try and take some of the heat off of Newark, I don't necessarily know that they've got the parking facilities for it. But I've never had a problem when I was flying out of or into AC. The closest I ever came to a problem was one time we were flying down to Florida. This is, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe, and we had to wait because Air Force One, although technically I don't think it was at the time because I don't believe the president was on it, it was doing maneuvers, taking off and landing. So we had to wait for them to clear the tarmac because we couldn't get anywhere near Air Force One. But if it's big enough for Air Force One to do that in, then certainly it could handle more commercial traffic. And I think it'd be good for the area, truthfully, expanding flight options. Because I don't know if either one of you have ever flown out of Newark. I'm not a fan of the airport in the first place, let alone with the air traffic control problems that they've been having. So I'd much rather fly out of AC.
No, we've flown out of Newark a few times, and it is never a pleasure.
Now, if I were you to rank them, let's say Newark, Philadelphia, AC. I don't think I've ever flown out of AC.
No?
At all. No.
Senior trip, Gabe, for high school? Philly?
Philadelphia.
I've flown out of JFK, LaGuardia.
I don't think I've ever flown out of LaGuardia. I flew into JFK. I've flown out of Philly, flown out of Newark, and I've flown out of AC. I don't think I've ever done LaGuardia.
I feel like I did Reagan maybe once a long
DC.
time. Yeah.
No. So if you were to rank them, you'd say Newark is not at the
Newark
top.
is the bottom.
Newark is definitely no. And I had a layover in O'Hare, and Newark is below Chicago. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I flew out of O'Hare once.
I prefer Midway, but that's a whole different airport debate.
But still, it's interesting. Denny is trying to market the place and taking advantage of a crisis to do it. And look, that's good politics.
Yeah.
And good government, because he's trying to get more eyeballs on that.
Yeah. And there are different government agencies that could help out with that and really help amplify that message. The Atlantic County Economic Alliance could help out with that pitch in. And other groups can really buy in and help amplify it and get some attention to it so that it is seen and not just ignored by the powers that be.
Yeah, and one can't even argue that, oh, it's close to Philadelphia. Oh, it's close to here. New York has JFK and LaGuardia alone, and then Newark maybe 20 minutes outside of New York. Houston's got 2 or 3 different airports. So Is it the size of the facilities themselves? Maybe, but they could always build on that.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny how things come up because a few weeks back we talked about the Pinelands and we talked about building a jetport in Chatsworth.
Yep.
And it was going to be bigger than Newark and LaGuardia and Idlewild combined. And so now you think about that, and no one says, gee, I really wish they built that jetport.
Nope.
But I think the other side of it is probably there is still a need for more capacity. But
yeah,
or better run at the very least.
Yeah.
Joe, can you tell us what's going on with Waterford Township?
I can certainly do that. Waterford Township, recently announced on their Facebook page that they are taking part in the Civic Ready system. According to the release from the Office of Emergency Management of the Township of Waterford, their release has a QR code, and they are advising residents that they can scan said QR code to sign up for the free Civic Ready alert system. Emergency messages will be sent to your phone or device for up-to-date emergency notifications that affect Waterford. This is not a system for everyday community notifications, and it will only be used in an emergency to transmit important information to Waterford residents. The release advises that this is a way to keep their families safe and be prepared during an emergency event in or around Waterford. And the Civic Ready notification system is a free communications service available to keep Waterford Township residents, business owners, and the surrounding community informed of critical incidents and community information.
Yeah, I imagine this is similar to Atlantic County's emergency notification system that they implemented a number of years ago. You can sign up for Atlantic County notifications by texting ATLCO-OEM to 24639. Again, but that's more countywide. This is Waterford's system.
Yeah, it seems to me like this is closer to, maybe 8-10 years ago, I lived in Ventnor for a hot minute, like 6 months. And I'm like, okay, they had this system where you sign up for text messages if there was an emergency thing in town, something happened. Usually the messages mostly revolved around whether or not the Dorset Avenue Bridge was open or passable. And fun fact, I can't figure out how to unsubscribe, so I always know still when Ventnor is flooded. But this seems similar to that, which was helpful when I lived there. Now, not so much.
Now you don't need to know about the Dorset Bridge or whatever.
No, which gets stuck all the time, gets flooded all the time, but it's a short town. But it was helpful when I lived there. And I have to imagine that a system like this would be helpful for residents.
Gabe, in order to read these alerts, we would need glasses. Where should we go?
I always say go where I go. Hammonton Family Eye Care. In fact, I was just there this past weekend picking up a new pair of glasses.
Which you're not wearing.
No, these are not the new pair. These are not the new pair. But listen, we'll lay those on you maybe next week. But Helen owns the place. Couldn't have been nicer. And I enjoy working with her. So see Hammonton Family Eye Care for routine and medical eye care for all ages, from glasses to contacts to eye exams and more. Visit Hammonton Family Eye Care at Peachtree Plaza, 80 South Whitehorse Pike in Hammonton. Call 609-567-7479 or go to HammontonFamilyEyeCare.com.
Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate that. Joe, you had a really busy weekend last weekend. You were very much Mr. Hammonton, and you started off the weekend at Cruisin' Main Street. Then you rolled right into the Mount Carmel concert. Can you tell us a little bit about the concert?
Oh, it was so much fun. Absolutely, it was so much fun. Started around 5 o'clock. That's when the food trucks opened, and that's how they get you. The promises of food. And then around 5:30.
What'd you eat, Joe? Tell the people what you ate. The Oddballs want to know.
I got a boardwalk pizza from Benino's Brick Oven Express, and then I followed it up with a cannoli. And keeping it nice in Hammonton. Wandered around for a while, kissed hands, shook babies, and so forth. Seeing this and that person. The DJ, I think was DJ Ralph was his name. He kept the crowd going for about 2 hours playing
DJ Ralph D'Amelio, been doing it forever.
Yeah, a mixture of doo-wop, good old-fashioned Italian songs, a little bit of 70s dance, the electric slide at one point. People kept filtering in and out, and then finally around 7:30 was when Tommy Kono, Frankie Avalon, and Fabian took to the stage. And let me tell you, when they took to the stage, age and infirmity did not stop a single individual, because there was a rush of fans that went to the stage. The security guards looked justifiably confused, like they probably figured this was going to be an easy night, and it was not. People were there trying to grab Fabian's shoes, and the guys were absolutely loving it. They were like, still got it. We still got it. And they entertained the crowd the entire time. Tommy Cano, however you pronounce his last name, he did a Bobby Rydell tribute, and he was good. He was very good. And then it was, I believe, Fabian followed him, and then my favorite, Frankie Avalon, came after that. And naturally, he did Beauty School Dropout from Greece. He did Beach Blanket Bingo. He even did, I don't know the name of the song, but ooh, ee, ooh, ah, ah, ting, tang, walla, bing, bang. Did that.
Pretty good version, Joe.
Thank you. And he also did California Sun from my favorite Frankie Avalon film, Back to the Beach, with Annette Funicello. Came out in 1987. It was great. And he told stories about growing up in and around Hammonton and picking blueberries when he was a kid, and nobody could find him because he was asleep under bushes covered in pints.
I love this stuff. I have to ask you, was it surreal to have Frankie Avalon and Fabian on the carnival grounds on, between 3rd Street and the Mount Carmel Lane section of Tilton Street? And meaning, it's got to be a little wild. That's never happened before in the history of the town.
I'm not even sure if surreal is the right word. As I understand, back in the 60s when he was still a kid, Frankie Avalon performed at like a St. Joe dance because his grandmother lived around the corner. But to have, these guys are two legends now. And it hurt me a little bit to learn that I am now older than Frankie Avalon was when he was in Back to the Beach, which I watched when I was a child, and he was an old man in that. And now he's younger. I'm older than he was. Yeah. But it was surreal. It was fantastic. The crowd had a great time, and boy, that man had some energy. Had some absolute energy about him.
The crossing guard to whom you are referring was Conchetta De Laurentiis.
Yes.
And this is just one of those intersections. I grew up on Tilton Street where this concert was held, and our crossing guard in front of the 7-Eleven was Conchetta De Laurentiis, and that would be Frankie Avalon's grandmother. So It's pretty wild for me to have grown up in that neighborhood and to have these guys. It's not my era, but my parents' era, definitely.
Sure.
And I think if you had told people back in the 50s that Fabian and Frankie Avalon would be doing a concert in 2025 on the carnival ground, I think people would say you're nuts. How could that ever happen?
They'd have just hit you with a shoe or something.
Yeah, but just kudos to the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Society for putting it on as part of this 150th year. But you going, it must have been fun. I can tell.
Yeah.
It must have been a good time.
And it was cool the way he was talking about how entrenched he is in the town of Hammonton. He pointed out his aunt, I believe Marie, was in the crowd, who just turned 100 years old.
Wow.
And he has fond memories of Hammonton and the surrounding community. And then I wish I had known this beforehand, because after the concert, I don't know if he was driven or if he walked, he went to Rocco's Townhouse. And if I had been told when I was a child that one day I could have had the opportunity to be eating in the same building in Hammonton as Frankie Avalon, let alone at Rocco's, I would have said that you were nuts. But I came home and I watched Back to the Beach, which is streaming. But I much rather would have gone to the Townhouse, because apparently it is true. Everybody goes to the Townhouse.
Yeah, that was a great photo online with the family and Mrs. Rubin, your 4th grade teacher, which we mentioned last week, and Dave and Steve and Beth, and like such a cool moment. It really was.
And I was actually in 4th grade when I saw Back to the Beach and became exposed to Frankie Avalon. So there's a whole lot of synchronicity going on there.
There is. And a few years before that, Mrs. Rubin was my 4th grade teacher too. And I agree with Joe that everyone meets at the Townhouse. And that's what they say. And apparently it is very true. So I think at this point, I want to mention that Rocco's Townhouse prides themselves on being a spot where everyone can meet and eat. Delicious appetizers, entrees, burgers, and more, along with a full bar and plenty of craft beers on tap. Remember, everyone meets at the Townhouse, including Frankie Avalon. Wow. 21 North 3rd Street in Hammonton. Call them at 609-561-9384 or visit roccostownhouse.com. And now the Rocco's Townhouse community calendar. Stop in Rocco's Townhouse after visiting Richland Vintage and Toy Fest on Saturday, May 24th. Back for their 4th annual spring edition vintage, retro, toy, antique, pop culture, art, and anything cool show. Shoreline Vintage and Antiques, 1343 Harding Highway, Richland, New Jersey. Show runs from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Also of note, join the Hammonton Methodist Church for Gathering Grounds Cafe on Friday, May 23rd at 6:30 p.m. for a relaxing evening outdoors, weather permitting, featuring live music by Think of Three, tasty snacks. Bring a chair or blanket to sit on and enjoy the music, the conversation, and the company. If the weather doesn't cooperate, the event will move indoors. Come to the floating sound bath with Hammonton Swim Club and Forged Soul Fitness. While in the pool, you will be guided through a beautiful guided meditation and sound bowl bath as you float in the soothing water. This event is happening May 30th at 8:30 p.m. May 23rd to May 26th at Paradise Lakes Campground will be the Quantum Awakening Festival, a profound gathering designed to elevate consciousness, expand awareness, and use the power of music, art, and community as a vehicle for transformation. More information on all events can be found online.
Thanks, Gabe. Joe, let's keep with the Mount Carmel theme for a moment. Can you tell me what's going on May 30th? I don't want people to forget about this important concert.
Yeah, absolutely. May 30th, as a reminder, pardon me.
Sure.
Just so everybody remembers, May 30th, I believe it is the choir of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception will be performing at St. Joseph's Church. They will be performing a Marian concert. They are nationally renowned. They are fantastic. And they will also be performing a hymn that the parish had commissioned, that the lyrics were written by Kathleen Pluth and the music was written by Frank LaRocca. It is a free event. They will, of course, be accepting donations, but there will be no charge to go see the concert. And I, for one, am quite looking forward to it.
This is a really important year for Mount Carmel. It's the 150th celebration. And to support that, the New Jersey Oddcast, that's us, we're donating 100% of all of our profits from our merchandise that we're selling online. And Joe's going to tell you all about it.
Absolutely. I can tell you anything you want to know about it. If you want mugs, we've got them. You want tumblers, magnets, hats, we got them. Shirts, absolutely. We got them. And you can find all of it at jersey-oddcast.printify.me. So you go there, buy some cool merch, show off your love for the Oddcast, and how about the Mount Carmel Festival at the same time?
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Gabe, I noticed that I was coming back from Philly the other day, the giant construction sign saying something about May 28th and road work. And then when coming back from Marlton the other night, we saw them again. What's happening?
I did find out, and here's some information for everybody. There's going to be several projects that will impact roadways in Hammonton that will be happening this summer. So this is according to Councilman Stephen Fergione. This past week, a drainage project on Fairview Avenue that will run at least from 3rd Street to 4th Street began. Drivers should expect road closures during the project, Fergione said to me. On May 28th, Bellevue Avenue will be worked on from the White Horse Pike to the downtown area and will include a reduction down to 1 lane in the construction zone, Fergione said. Now, there's no road closures that are anticipated with the Bellevue Avenue work. In addition, Old Forks Road will be paved from Carriageway to Walnut Street, Fergione said, adding that the project should take a couple days to complete. Lastly, the railroad crossing at Bellevue Avenue will be worked on in June and will impact motorists in that area. So everybody should be really aware, particularly these arteries like Fairview, Old Forks Road, Bellevue Avenue, there's going to be some road work and there is going to be some impact when you're driving through town.
If I'm not mistaken, if the Old Forks project is the one to which Journey was referring, they're looking to start that at the end of July. They just finished utility work in that section, and I think there's a 60-day settlement period before they repave. So at least that will be done in the middle of the summer when there is little to no school traffic, so at least that won't be terribly impacted. The stuff that they're doing on 54, did he indicate whether or not that was part of the larger project that the state is doing for the length of 54?
You're talking about that major project that's going from Whitehorse Pike to 40.
Yeah.
That project. No, he
Yeah.
did not. What he said was this project was going to be along that area between the Whitehorse Pike and moving toward the downtown. It probably will not get to the downtown area, but is it a phase of that larger project? He did not reference that.
Okay.
I love a good construction project. It makes a little chaos. Everyone keeps everybody on their toes. I think that's
Yeah,
fun.
that's a way to put it.
But Fairview Avenue, Bellevue Avenue, and between the two of them is Marinella Funeral Home. Gabe, can you tell us about Marinella Funeral Home?
Marinella Funeral Home, Gina, has been serving the community since 1962 and has been family owned and operated for 3 generations. Marinella Funeral Home provides individually designed burial, cremation, and pre-planned funeral services to meet the needs of each family. Ask them about how pre-planning provides true peace of mind to your family. Contact the Marinella Funeral Home located at 102 North 3rd Street in Hammonton at 609-561-1311.
Thanks, Gabe. I was reading online about how the Pinelands Commission is looking to acquire some land. And they have set aside approximately $3 million to do so. And they put some maps online of target areas of where they'd like to purchase this property. Gabe, can you tell us a little bit more?
The Pinelands Commission is offering a new round of funding for land acquisition projects. A total of $3 million will be made available to fund land preservation efforts for projects that rank highly relative to a set evaluation matrix. That's according to the Commission. And the matrix lays out weighted criteria related to grassland habitats, habitat for other threatened or endangered species, size of the project, and its contiguity of with nearby preserved land, location in or near an environmental justice community, location of the project in a section 502 or acquisition target area, stewardship and maintenance plans of projects, and partner contribution of at least 66.7% of acquisition costs. So, county and municipal governments and non-governmental organizations engaged in permanent land protection are invited to apply for the project funding, and a map showing the acquisition target areas is available online. So, in addition, the Pinelands Commission acquisition target areas may be viewed on the New Jersey Conservation Blueprint map.
So what I thought was interesting, there's no targets. It doesn't appear to be any targets in Hammonton at the moment, but Folsom, Mullica, yes.
Okay.
And then the Section 502 targets, there are some of those like in Estelle Manor, it looks like maybe Bass River and a few other towns. But Hammonton itself seems to be in the clear. Egg Harbor City has a couple of acquisition target areas outlined according to the maps. But it's just interesting to see what they're looking to do. But $3 million is not going to get you a whole heck of a lot of land, in my opinion.
It depends. If I read that correctly, then they're looking at land that is it already under some manner of permanent land protection? Because it says it's open to governments and non-government organizations engaged in permanent land protection that are invited to apply for project funding. So is this land that you can't really build on anyway, or is this like prime commercial real estate? Because if that's the case, then yeah, $3 million is going to get you about 1 or 2 parcels. But if it's land that's been otherwise deemed not necessarily buildable, that may get you some acreage.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like everyone has a very high value on their properties right now. And even if it's not buildable at this moment, I feel like people feel like things are going to change. Look at we see what's going on with Winslow Township and how they're fighting the Pinelands.
That's true.
So is that going to change people's opinion on what the value of their property is and what's protected right now? Is that going to be protected 20 years from now?
Fair point.
I think there's always opportunities. If you recall, years ago, one of the bigger acquisitions was the former DeMarco, AR
Mhm.
DeMarco Cranberry Farm, and the Nature Conservancy came in and filled that gap. And I thought of that when we were talking about, let's say, they're looking to basically, in some cases, complete the puzzle, they said. So maybe it is land that is not necessarily highly rated commercially that they're trying to get.
Could be landlocked parcels, things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We will see what happens with that. In related news, Gabe, can you tell us about the new home for the Pinelands Research Institute?
Yes, the 162-acre Pine Tree Center is becoming the new home to the Pinelands Research Institute and its educational program. So it was protected recently by the Pinelands Preservation Alliance and other partners for conservation, recreation, and the study of nature. And really, what happened was the PPA and the NJ Conservation came together and acquired this Pine Tree Center in Tabernacle from the Boy Scouts of America. So it's 162 acres of upland and wetland forests, buildings for classes, gatherings, and overnight accommodation, and campsites. It's adjoining to the 122,000 acre Warden State Forest, and the center connects to a network of several 100,000 acres of preserved lands. It's located in the heart of the Pinelands National Reserve, a UNESCO biosphere reserve that enjoys the benefits of the nation's strongest conservation and growth management program and stretches across 1.1 million acres from
Hmm.
inland forests and towns to the Jersey shores, estuaries, barrier islands, and beaches. And then the last part is that the PPA was able to acquire the Pine Tree Center thanks in part to an extraordinary bequest it received for the specific purpose of buying land for conservation. So the property is now permanently protected for conservation, recreation, and the study of nature.
I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. I think that's neat. I would have loved to have gone someplace like that back in my Girl Scout days 100 years ago and to really explore the pines and go hiking and learn more the flora, the fauna, and the ecological history of the area. So it's a wonderful resource that we now have in our backyard. I hope it's going to be a place where we have a lot of field trips going to in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was never so much one for walking through the woods, but I do enjoy walking trails limitedly. Nature and I have never really so much gotten along, but that doesn't mean
You
that other.
work outside.
I don't work in the woods, do
Yeah,
I?
no, it's
And
a
sincerely,
field.
you should see me if I happen to walk through a spider web. I look like I'm having some manner of episode and I've suddenly learned martial arts. It's quite embarrassing, especially if I shriek like a child. So if you hear screams coming from the cemetery, it may not be a ghost, it may simply be a bug on my face. But that being said, I like the way this piggybacks off of what the Pinelands is looking to do because it feels like it's becoming more and more rare these days to have organizations buy land to conserve it. And whoever bequeathed the money to the PPA, that's an extraordinary gift and it's important to do. And yeah, it flies in the face of conventional wisdom that says that we must expand and we must evolve and we must build here. But I'm sure those are the same arguments that were done 50 years ago when the Pinelands Commission first came into place. It's becoming increasingly important, especially on top of our aquifer.
Agreed. And you hear so many people say, go outside, touch grass. You know what I mean? As a way to people to tell them to get their, to do a reality check.
That's how you
And
get worms.
yeah. And so I think it goes back to that going back to nature. I'm not the hiker I was as a kid, I used to go hiking all the time. I found a newt in the woods one time, brought him home. He lived for an obscene amount of years. I want to say 8 or 10, something like that. And I just found him in the woods. I brought him home. So that was always something we did. And camping, Girl Scouts, like I said. So to have this in our backyard, I think is a wonderful opportunity. I saw a hike recently that somebody is organizing called Surviving in the Pines. And it teaches you like about the different dangerous snakes and things like that. And then there was another one that says giving up social media, come on a hike with me. And this person is breaking up with their smartphone. They're only going to have phone and text like call and text abilities. So there is this bat to nature movement. Maybe it's small, but it's happening in our Pinelands, and this acquisition feels right in line with that.
I feel like Polly and Christopher could have used that first one.
And they were stuck out there
Eating ketchup packets.
which we all know wasn't filmed down here. But it's funny, picking up on what Gina said, it starts small. But when you think about it, I'm sure the Pinelands, the movement for the Pinelands, we know it started small in the 60s and even before that. And now we do have some legitimate things that we've been talking about that are the opposite end of the extreme. When we think about, like Joe said, that aquifer, and we talk about a massive project for the White Horse Pike, how does it impact that aquifer? Very close by, you have the PPA and other people preserving this Boy Scout thing and trying to make it an institute. And then on our end, we're saying, let's maybe look at development and different things. I'm interested to see going forward how people who live here begin to understand, well, when you do that, there's going to be an impact on that aquifer and the water, and there's going to be an impact on the natural setting we're in. You talked about touch grass. So I think it starts small with maybe I'm not on my smartphone as much, but then I think it maybe goes to maybe I have to be aware of these things that are happening in the community that are bigger.
Maybe, Gabe, we should go for a picnic in the Pines.
A picnic in the Pines.
Yeah, and we can get all of the goodies we need for such a picnic at Bagliani's Market or for our Memorial Day barbecue. We're not really having a Memorial Day barbecue, but if we were, where would we get our supplies, Gabe?
If we did do a picnic in the Pines, and if we did do a barbecue, the place to go would be Bagliani's Market, Gina. At Bagliani's Market, they always say, we treat our customers like family, with a variety of custom cut meats, farm fresh produce, delicious cheeses, a full deli, and more. Bagliani's Market is something for everyone. They are famous for their wide variety of authentic Italian specialty products. Try their Italian bread and rolls, prepared foods, and homemade pasta. Follow their social media for weekly loyalty reward promos. Bagliani's Market is located at 417 12th Street in Hammonton. Call 609-561-0693 or visit Facebook and Instagram for more information.
So one of the things I love about Hammonton is this very close-knit ability it has or is with certain things. And like the Hammonton Swim Club is just such an iconic Hammonton thing compared to where I grew up in either New York City or in upstate New York. We didn't have such things. You wanted to go swimming in the city, you go to the Y. You want to go swimming in upstate New York, either go to your friend's house with a pool or you go to the lakes. We had a bunch of different lakes you can literally go jump in. So to have the swim club is such a neat thing in Hammonton, and the season opens up May 24th, and that is this weekend. And one of the things they're doing this year that I don't remember them doing often in years past is they're having open lap swims where you don't need to be a member, but you can come swim Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. And you get to swim in their pools. This is great for your exercise, and it's just there's a small fee for either session. There's 2 different sessions, and I think that's super cool and that they're offering that this year. But again, the swim club opens May 24th.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I don't remember them offering that to non-members also. If they have, I missed it, but I think it's fantastic. Not for me because I can't swim, but for
We're not sending you. We're not sending you there.
No, I'm not going to be your man on the street there for that one. But if
I don't need to hear the story of how you were once
Not going to
It's
tell it.
tempting to learn to swim. That's not a good one for the podcast.
No, but the closest that my friends and I came to swimming when we were kids, my friends' parents, for reasons that still pass understanding, let us dig this gigantic hole in their backyard that we then put a tarp in and filled that with water.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, true story. That actually
your own.
inspired them a few years later to get an in-ground pool. But yeah, so John, Jerry, thank you again for that. That was very kind of you. But that was the closest that we came to swimming. But if you do swim and you enjoy swimming, this is fantastic. Did I read that it's salt water? Did I read that properly?
Yes, they have a
Yeah,
saltwater pool.
25-meter, 5 lanes, salt water. Yeah, that's cool.
Gabriel, was your family members?
No, but to my recollection, no. But I was always a guest. I had a friend who was a lifeguard there, and I was often a guest at the swim club. It's pretty chill. You don't think about it like that, but it is like out there on the White Horse Pike, and you don't immediately think this is a beautiful setting, but it is in a weird way very relaxed, and they've done a lot of upgrades to it since I was a kid, and it was always very social. You again, half of Hammonton was there, as we often say, and it was a great place. These swim clubs are really, again, a product of a bygone era of the 50s
Yeah.
and 60s, and to still have one in 2025 is a credit to all the families who now generationally and the new people who have come on board. It's a great place to go, and I love that they're having these new things. I think that's great.
Yeah, and the Stingrays will get started once school gets out, and they'll have their competitions. And then there's movie nights, and there's all other kinds of events that they do. And like you said, the swim club is a family in its own. And there's some really strong friendships that come out of it. So again, the season opens May 24th for the Hammonton Swim Club. More information online. Joe, Monday, May 26th is Memorial Day.
It is.
There are events leading up to it in and around the county. Can you give us a couple?
Yeah, I can talk about two of them right off the bat.
Thank you.
The county itself will be having their 40th annual Veterans Memorial Program on Friday, the 23rd at 2 p.m. at Estelle Manor Park. The program will feature honor guard, color guard, bagpipers, and placement of wreaths. The keynote speaker will be John Doherty, Army veteran and past president of the National Association of Veteran Service Officers. Now, the town of Hammonton will be observing Memorial Day on Monday, starting with a parade beginning at 10:30 with World War II vet George Capuccio as the Grand Marshal. The ceremony will start at the conclusion of the parade with speakers including Councilman Tom Gribben, the town's deputy mayor, Atlantic County Commissioner James Bertino, Atlantic County Clerk Joe Girallo, and keynote speaker Jordan Hayes, a staff sergeant in the New Jersey Army Reserves.
Excellent. Sounds like a busy day and a busy weekend.
Yeah, and I always enjoy, I don't know if it's quite the right word given the nature of the occasion, but I always enjoy the town's observance of Memorial Day. The parade is nice, but I like the speakers. There's usually a color guard at Hammonton's event. A lot of times the Colonel Louis R. Francine Camp 7, Sons of the Union Veterans of the Civil War. Did I get that right? Because I think I did.
You
Big
did.
Hand will call you out if you didn't, trust
No,
me.
you did.
Yeah, he
I
will.
think you did.
If not him, Frank Tomasello will send me a nastygram. But they usually do a volley, and it's something to see. Like
And they actually do a volley or something at the Green Mountain Cemetery on actual Memorial Day, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's always on actual Memorial Day as we observe it now, or if it was the original date that was set forth in whatever date Brigadier General name I do not remember set forth as the observance.
I think it's on wasn't that Decoration Day?
It used to be Decoration Day, yes.
I think they do it on the actual Decoration Day.
Yeah. And
The general is Logan, and
thank you.
And it's done. I've been in attendance.
Yeah.
On occasion, and it's really moving. It's underneath that big GAR statue that's at the top of the hill of Green Mountain Cemetery, and it is on the actual day, which I want to say is May 30th.
I think it is May 30th,
Yeah,
and
and
they're out in full regalia. They've got a bugler. They play taps.
yep.
They usually say some nice words. They fire another volley there, and it really is something spectacular to see.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, if you have the chance, go to either one of these ceremonies. There, it is solemn, it is a memorial ceremony, but that setting between the Presbyterian and Methodist churches of Hammonton Veterans Memorial Park is one of the best in town. And when they have that ceremony, it just makes it almost, you feel like you're in the presence of something greater than yourself. And the same way up at the top of Greenmount Cemetery.
Yeah,
So these are very old school Hammonton events that can trace their, in some cases, back, the case of the GAR goes back to the 1860s.
yeah.
So it's a great town for its history, and I always encourage people to go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. If you're driving anywhere to get to these events, you're going to need insurance. Who should people call, Joe?
That's easy. There's only one place to call, and that's Diversified Insurance. See Diversified Insurance for all your commercial and personal insurance needs. They are a value added firm. They provide unsurpassed service, consult with you to determine your needs, and offer you a choice of insurance plans and programs. They are a value hunter who can find the best combination of coverage, service, and price. Contact them today at 609 567 7771 or visit their website at diversifiedinsuranceofnj.com.
Thanks, Joe. The Hamilton Education Foundation is offering parents and relatives of upcoming graduates a special way to honor local graduates. You can purchase a blueberry leaf, a cluster, or even a pint to go at the Hamilton Middle School on the blueberry bush. This artistic interpretation of a blueberry bush is being constructed in the middle school, and there's already a completed one in the high school. So you get your graduate's name. It can be etched on the leaf or on the cluster. You could put multiple people's names, like your whole family and the year they graduated. Like I said, the high school one sold out, so now they're working on the middle school one. It's a beautiful representation. It's a different way to give a gift, and it supports the Hamilton Education Foundation. And for you guys, for Joe and Gabe, I think this would be something neat if you don't have one, because that's the school you actually graduated from.
Yes, it
That was
is.
your high school.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's a lot of options. So I think, yeah, you could look at a class of 91 or something like that. Obviously, this is new in the sense that they're opening it up a little wider. It sounds, but it's also to honor a local grad. Gina, is that new this year?
Yeah, and people have purchased them for teachers. They've purchased them for graduates. Families have purchased them. We purchase them when a board member retires after a number of years from the Ed Foundation board members, I should say. It's just special. It's different. It's a way to keep your name alive in the school, or to keep your child's name alive in the school. And if you're looking for more information, just check out the Hamilton Education Foundation social media page. Find, I believe Dave Birnbaum is in charge of it right now. Kevin Friel is the president of the organization, or find the Education Foundation's website online.
You know,
And you can get all the information you need to honor your grad.
I may look into that because my name has been etched in the school since the 90s. Like so many other of our play and choir schoolmates, we used to write our initials on what we called the Big Blue Monster, which was the lighting board
Okay.
backstage. And the last time I attended the Veterans Day event, I made my way backstage and found that my initials were still on the Big Blue Monster from 1994.
I was just going to ask, how many years ago
Yeah,
was that?
but we initialed every year that we were in the play. So 94, 95, and 96, there I was. But eventually somebody's going to repaint that thing and then I'll be gone. So maybe I will look into this as a way to stay in that building in perpetuity.
I think that's a great idea. And Gabe, I don't think you've purchased a leaf yet or anything, have you?
I think we did something in the high school. The high school either got a rock or something for the, back then it was more for a business type of
Okay.
thing. I don't think I did anything personally, and I Yeah, even though it's the middle school now, I think I would have way more of a personal connection
Yeah.
with the Liberty Street building than I
Gabe
would.
Donio was here.
Yeah, so that it might be something fun to do. And since I wasn't in the play or the choir, I didn't really carve my name on anything. But
Again, inappropriate too. No vandalism from you, Gabe Donio.
no, I wouldn't do
I,
that.
we didn't carve, we just wrote. You had generations, and we did it because the people in the 80s and the 70s, their names were there. Probably your brother, I'd imagine he was in the plays, wasn't he, Father Frank?
Yeah, he was. I don't know if that was the thing they did in '84. It might
There were some initials from the 80s, so very
could
possible.
be, could be. So I have to ask him next time let's see. He may or may not remember, or he may or may not want to tell me. I don't know, but it would be interesting if that tradition, like you and I both having the same fourth grade teacher,
Yeah.
the consistency in Hammonton is always the thing, isn't it? I
Mhm.
love the fact that it could be that my brother Frank did something in the '80s that you did in the '90s. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's play a little game of true or false, New Jersey edition. Truth, false. New Jersey is has more water boundaries or water borders than any other state in the union, if you will, other than Hawaii. Like it has the most mileage of shoreline compared to any other state in the union.
Are we talking about actual mileage or percentage of area? Because if we're talking about actual mileage, I'm going to say false. If we're talking about percentage of area, I'm going to say true.
Ooh, I love you. That's great, Joe. I would say we'll go percentage.
Okay, then I'm going to say true.
Gabe?
I will say true. I will take that. I don't know that I feel like I have my arms completely around the question, but I'll say true.
90% of its borders are water.
Okay,
It's
then we're
bordered by the Atlantic Ocean on the east, the Delaware River and Bay on the west and south, the Delaware River and Bay and Hudson River on the north. Hawaii is the only other state that has a greater percentage of its borders as water.
okay, because I was thinking Florida if we're talking mileage, but they've got a rather large upper land border. So Jersey definitely has them beat when you consider that we're a peninsula with only maybe 50 or 75 miles at the top that is connected to the rest of the land.
Yeah.
Ah,
Which you think about, Hawaii is all islands.
yes. Yeah. You can't beat that.
No. New Jersey having 90% is pretty unusual.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And
That's
all
true.
that water may very well explain why we are, in fact, the Garden State. We're surrounded by water on all sides. And so we have wildly fertile soil.
And
Could
very
be.
fertile imaginations.
That's also true.
That is very true.
I don't think a fence would keep out water, but a fence may keep out the Jersey Devil. Who should people call for a good fence in Hammonton and the surrounding area, Joe?
If you are looking, they say that good fences make great neighbors. And with that in mind,
Drives Gabe nuts because he feels that's a misinterpretation
I,
of that quote.
let's get through the first thing.
in any event, if you're looking for a fence, for whatever the reason, you call Master Wire Fence. For more than 40 years, Master Wire Manufacturing Fence Company has been providing the South Jersey and tri-state area with residential and commercial fence supplies and services. Whether you're looking for quality products to do it yourself or are in need of a trustworthy fencing company to install your fence, they've got you covered. Master Wire Manufacturing Fence Company provides the highest quality products and customer service to each and every person who walks through their doors or gives them a call. Contact Master Wire at 609-567-1616 or visit their website at masterwirefence.net.
Gabe, what's your feeling on that quote?
It's a quote from a Robert Frost poem called Mending Wall. And the thing is, without getting too much into it, I always felt my read on that particular line is that he was being somewhat sly in the poem, and the voice of the narrator of the poem saying good fences make good neighbors, but not really meaning it. And he even asks, but why do they make good neighbors? I always thought that was a sort of thing that was in the poem, not to be taken literally, but to be taken as a kind of winking thing of this guy believes good fences make good neighbors, but they really don't. Because they're working on a wall together. And what he's trying to say is we should be open to each other. We should be good neighbors. So in Hammonton, I think we don't believe that. If you think about a lot of Hammonton, there aren't a lot of fences, and there are, and a lot of the land, even in the interior part of the downtown and also the neighborhoods around it, you can walk from one yard to another pretty well, but it's just a different way. Everybody quotes it that way, so there you go.
The Hammonton Cancer Foundation is inviting the public to the annual Walk for Our Neighbors. This annual event supports local families affected by cancer. It'll be held Saturday, June 7th. It's rain or shine, 9 a.m. at Hammonton Middle School. The registration opens up at 8 a.m. All proceeds directly support cancer patients and their families in the area. And they say whether you walk in memory of a loved one, in support of someone currently fighting, or if you are fighting cancer yourself, or simply to show your love for the cause, they say every step makes a difference. And you can find out more information at hammontoncancerfoundation.org/events. Gabe, you and I have walked this event. Joe, you've been to it, I believe, right?
I have been to it. I have not walked it, but I have been to it.
Yeah, even Fenway, our dog, walked it one year.
Yeah, it's a great event. I give credit to everyone who's involved with it because it really has become kind of a signature event on the calendar. And everyone, we all know people who have been touched by this disease. So I think it brings up a lot of memories. It also brings up a lot of great stories of people who have fought and won. So hopefully we'll have some more of those. And it's a great event.
I find it very motivating when you see people who are battling cancer out there walking the event. You know what I mean? They're like, nope, I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to do this event. And they come out there and they show that. And it just really is a strength. And they have a whole team behind them. And maybe they're wearing matching shirts or pins or they're color coordinated. It's very powerful and moving. And I like that they do it during the day because I know there's some cancer walks that are night. As someone who often trips over their own feet, I like to walk in the daytime. So I support that event. And I think it's wonderful that they're working on it again for this year. So that's June 7th. In other events, we have coming up, actually, we have the Victory Bible Car Show that is coming up very soon. This is an annual event where Victory Bible holds a car wash and car show. Proceeds benefit different organizations. This year, they are choosing to honor the Hammonton Tri-Vets, which is made up of the American Legion, the VFW, and the DAV. This event will be May 31st, the day after Decoration Day. It starts at 8 a.m., ends at noon, and the car show will run until 1 p.m. There'll also be an indoor yard sale. It's a rain or shine event. This is Victory Bible Church on South Egg Harbor Road. We've been through this event a few times. Victory Bible Church does so much for the community. They show up to every event. They're very strong at volunteering. They come with a crowd and they're always willing to help out. So to go back and support them, it's really quite simple and you get your car cleaned.
The facility is massive, and every event that they have inside is always very well attended, both by customers and by vendors. And they do great work, and it's a great place to go. And they're also touting a bake sale. We've been over this before. Baked goods are my kryptonite.
Nice.
Yeah.
See that? You get a chance to see some cars. You might get your car washed, and you can pick up something for your sweet tooth. So you're all set. That's a full day. It's a full day. But no, they do just like that. It sounds like they do so much for the community, like you guys said. And also, I do think they are always so engaged with trying to bring people to the church and trying to let them see the property but it's civic minded as well.
Yeah.
Just cruising Main Street helps the downtown, and the concert helps the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Society, and this helps Victory Bible Church. But if you think about it, all of these things help the community, and they all are community events. And we're really fortunate to have people like this all year long doing things like this.
Agreed.
Okay, let's switch our heads over to sports. We had some interesting news about Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe, and others. Can you tell us what's going on?
It was a 180-degree shift by Major League Baseball last week, and it was a decision that had sort of seismic effects on the history of the game. Pete Rose, obviously, and Shoeless Joe Jackson, and the 8 men out of the Chicago White Sox from back in 1919 were essentially banned from baseball.
Yeah.
And then they had lifetime bans and this and that. Now that has been reversed. Pete Rose died last year. And I guess baseball always had an idea of what they were going to do when he passed away. And what they did was they said, okay, Pete's ban is rescinded, and so is the ban on all these other people. And really, the two main people who now could become eligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame are Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe. So, on two fronts, obviously, Cincinnati fans love Pete Rose, most of them, and Philadelphia fans love Pete Rose because of the 1980 World Series championship that he brought, the first one for the Phillies ever. And then Shoeless Joe has been figured in both literature by a book by W.P. Kinsella of the same name, Shoeless Joe, and a movie it became known as Field of Dreams. And that story had been told, and that movie has become iconic. Now you have to look at everything now through the prism of what happened last week and say, okay, I guess maybe there's a chance that all of that is going to change, which is really amazing when you think about it, because most baseball fans did not see it coming. It happened out of the blue. And it is, I can say, what's the best way to say it? It's either just a great marketing ploy, or maybe it shows, well, look, people are more than the alleged worst things they've ever done.
I gotta tell you, I figured I would live to see the ban on Pete Rose lifted. Like many viewers out there, listeners, I remember when he broke Ty Cobb's record. He went on the talk show circuit. I remember I used to, for years, have a videotape of him on Donio.
Oh, yeah.
And we
Wow.
all loved Pete Rose. I had a magazine and a giant poster for years that said 4192 with him doing the whole pose. And yeah, okay, he gambled as a manager. He should not have. And I figured that once Pete Rose was no longer with us, that they were going to lift the ban. I'm surprised by Shoeless Joe. The Black Sox, whether or not you subscribe to it, they were at least accused, and there was ample evidence to say that they fixed the World Series. Go back to Godfather 2. Hyman Roth loved baseball ever since Arnold Rothstein fixed the World Series in 1919.
Right.
It was famous.
Right.
And
or The Great Gatsby,
yeah,
the faith of 50 million people.
yeah, and
Same reference.
For my money, and this is my opinion, fixing the World Series is a lot worse than gambling on baseball, especially since I don't believe that it was ever determined that Pete Rose bet against his team. I think he was betting in favor of his team. Am I incorrect with that?
It was never publicly stated that he bet against them. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know if he did or didn't. But
because if he bet against his team, then he's in the same ballpark, no pun intended, as the Black Sox, because now you're betting against your team, you can fix the game. But if he was betting in favor of the team, that he wasn't fixing the game. Oh, was he fixing the game so they'd win more? No, that doesn't make sense. But
he always said he never bet against the team.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we have. Whatever happened, no matter what, with Pete Rose, now the updated history, is that apparently whatever he didn't matter, because now the commissioner of baseball, Manfred, said, okay, that's no longer, the ban's no longer in place. So for him to do that, on your point, Joe, obviously someone decided, okay, let's let bygones be bygones.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he had said something to the point of that he can no longer cause harm to the game of baseball. No, he's no longer with us. So really,
dead.
Yeah, but the same thing could be said for the Black Sox. Okay, it was 1919. It was 106 years ago. None of them are with us anymore. Assuming that they were 20, assuming they were 18 at the time, they'd be 124 years old. They haven't been with us for decades. What more harm could they do?
At the end of the day, here's what I think, and this is what I mean by a good marketing ploy. I don't know that you do it with the steroid users, the Barry Bonds of the world, and the different ones who were alleged to have done those things. But it sure does seem like if you had a Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson and I don't know that this will happen that way, but Hall of Fame Day.
Oh,
You're going to draw some people. I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, Cooperstown's going to have to add in more parking.
A little bit. A little
Yeah.
bit. You chalk this up to it certainly turned a lot of heads when it was announced last week.
Turn mine, and I haven't followed baseball in decades.
There you go. So there you go. Gina,
Absolutely.
any thoughts?
Forgiveness is something you can do for people, and it's a gift. And I think we need to forgive Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe for whatever they did or allegedly did. Their accomplishments on the field were far greater than these items. And also maybe because I'm also a huge Mark McGwire fan, and I really do want to see him in the Hall of Fame. I think he did a lot of good work with outside of the game, and it was a different time, and I think we need to forgive him and allow him to be in the Hall of Fame as well. So if we start with Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe, I'm fine with that.
I can't forgive Mark McGwire. Not for what he did, but because after he broke the record, my friends and I went to a Phillies game, and this was the last baseball game that I went to.
And you're still salty.
Still salty. This was like
I hear it.
1999, I think it was. And the second inning, he got hit at his first at bat. He got hit in the ankle, and he was out for the rest of the game. And there I am in 1999, drinking like an $8 Budweiser. I'm like, why am I even here? The guy I came to see isn't playing, and I've never forgiven him since.
You are such a petty Betty.
Yeah, you might want to let him up, Joe.
Oh my God!
You're on my list, McGwire.
Yeah, after 26 years, you might want to say, you might want to lay down that burden.
Oh my God, Joseph.
Maybe.
Gabe, let's hear about another one of our classic sponsors. How about Demiglio Septic and Quality Sanitation?
Hey, we love them. We love Demiglio Septic and Quality Sanitation. And they're here for a variety of services, including septic pump out, grease trap service, high pressure jetting, portable toilets, and more. Call 609-561-3597 or go to demiglioseptic.com for Demiglio Septic, or call 609-561-4666 for quality sanitation. Experience the Demiglio difference, a promise of superior service, quality, and reliability.
Fun fact, septic pump out is how I would describe McGwire's at bat in that game.
Come on now.
Joseph.
You got to let that go. Got to let that go.
Okay, I think we could all agree that we love movies. The three of us love going to the movies. We love everything about the movies. And historically, we've seen a lot of movies in the theater too, right?
Yeah.
There was a time I got paid to go to the movies every week, good or bad. Yeah.
That's true.
So last weekend, Gabe says, let's do something. Why don't we go out? What do you want to do? And I said, let's go to the movies.
Let's go to
Made the mistake of saying that because then I went on to Fandango to find out what's playing. And I'm like, there is absolutely nothing here I want to see. I don't even know why they made a movie called Clown in a Cornfield. None of those sound like things I want to see.
You don't want to see a quality movie like Clown in a Cornfield?
I've had that nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what Shadow Force is. I have no idea what Thunderbolt is.
Thunderbolts was a Marvel movie.
That's a Marvel movie.
The Accountant 2, I would go see because I love me some Ben Affleck. But I'm like, I don't know that I want to pay for that. I may want to wait for that to come out on demand. Not going to see Final Destination. Where are the rom-coms? Where are the general drama movies? Like, and I feel like this is where I feel old. I feel like my parents, where are the good movies? Is the writer's strike, did that ruin movies for the next couple of years?
No.
What's going on?
Gabe, you want to take this? Because I got my thoughts too.
I'll take the beginning of what I think has happened, but I don't think it was necessarily. Writer's strike might have been a factor. Also, I think the other factor is people don't want to
Clown in a cornfield.
Yeah, they don't want to bet money, even though that sounds new, but they don't want to put money into new stuff. That's why Marvel became such an enormous multi-billion-dollar industry, Marvel movies, because they had a built-in audience that came with them. If you put out a Black Panther movie, everybody who read Black Panther growing up, they showed up, and etc. for all the different characters. I just cite 1989 as one of the greatest movie years in history, where you could go to the movie theater and see a great movie like every weekend, not catch it here or there, and that there were other ones getting the runoff. So if Batman was in the theater, Dead Poets Society made $300 million
Yes.
because people went to go see that because they couldn't get into Batman. But there were a plethora of good movies in 1989. That, unfortunately, is 36 years ago. Did I do the math right?
Yes.
And I think that's the problem. In my view, you're almost 2 generations removed from that.
Yeah.
And not just in terms of the audience, but in terms of the people who make movies are two
Yeah.
generations removed from the people who made the movies in 1989. What do you think, Joe?
Oh, I agree. And I'll go further with that. That was 36 years ago when Batman came out. That was also the year that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out, Star Trek V came out, and the greatest cinematic masterpiece known to man, No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan.
A classic.
Yeah, but that one notwithstanding, we're still making these damn movies 36 years later. The Batman 2 was still in development. Indiana Jones film just came out, last year? I understand that what I'm about to say is going to have you check me into somewhere. But maybe it's time to stop making Batman and Star Trek and Star Wars and Indiana Jones and come up with some new ideas. And that's the problem, Gina.
Mission
That's where,
Impossible 200.
Yeah. Mission Impossible.
yeah,
Like,
that's the problem. The accountants, no offense to your favorite film, The Accountant, with
It's not my
Ben
favorite. I
Affleck,
just really like
but
Ben Affleck. He's hot.
but they look at what sells and they say, okay, let's do more of this. And so the very prospect of like cinematic auteurs, and Martin Scorsese said something along these lines a couple of years ago and was eviscerated in the media for it. But the very idea of a young George Lucas or a young Coppola or a young Spielberg getting to put their ideas on screen in a mass market theater release is highly unlikely these days because it doesn't have the Marvel brand on it, or it doesn't have this franchise
It's
recognition
not a
on it.
guaranteed box office success.
Correct. It doesn't have a
exactly
built-in audience. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And they don't want to risk it. The studio doesn't want to risk the money to finance a film for what nowadays upwards of what? 300 million? Like, how much is it?
Because they still haven't recovered from the economic hit that they took during the pandemic. Purposely did not say the plague because I know how you feel about that.
Thank you. Because it wasn't a plague.
I was saying what I didn't say. But theater, Lord knows how many movie theaters closed and never reopened because of that. How many chains went under. The film industry took a hit on that because they make far more on ticket releases than they do going to streaming. So I understand why they want to make safe bets, but they're putting out terrible products.
Yeah, I just don't know what to do because I think of some really great movies that I've seen over the year that are just movies. There's nothing, they're not part of a series. The Terminal, Tom Hanks, The Intern with
De Niro.
and De Niro, Anne Hathaway, great little movie. These are not Clown in a Cornfield or a Marvel movie. They're just nice little movies, and I really enjoyed them. And I also give me some Princess Diaries. Give me some She's All That. I love a teen movie.
She's All That. Oh, man.
I know, right?
It was a fun flick.
Yeah, you could argue the late 90s, 10 years out, while it was a lot of these teen movies, there were still movies that were original. 10 Things I Hate About You, She's All That, Drive Me Crazy.
Well, She's All That was a Pygmalion retelling.
Right. That's true. That's true. But do you think there was a built-in audience for Pygmalion?
And 10 Things I Hate About You is what? Taming of the Shrew?
Yes.
Yes, that absolutely is true.
And,
But
yeah,
same argument.
But they were clever retellings. You didn't need to know. You didn't need to know the source material. If anything, it helped. It's a retelling of this. Oh, maybe I'll check that out.
And they were well cast. Freddie Prinze Jr., Heath Ledger, Julia Stiles. She's All That. Help me out.
Rachel Lee Cook.
Right, Rachel Lee Cook. In other words, okay, none of those people really. Maybe Heath Ledger could have become a huge star, but it was interesting. And you went to the theater and you left. And I don't think we want to belabor the point, but you felt entertained. You felt like you got your money's worth.
Are you not entertained?
Gladiator did that.
Yes,
That
it did.
entertained us.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe. Yes, very funny. Good use of that. So
Thank
I don't know. When's the last time? That's the thing. When's the last time you felt that way in the theater?
Okay, let's make that our odd poll question of the week then.
Sounds good.
When is the last time you had an enjoyable experience at the movie theater? Now, unfortunately, Gabe and I are going to have the same answer since we're married.
We went together and we saw The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, which you wouldn't think would be that good, but it actually was entertaining. So, worth the $25 popcorn that we bought.
So that's over a year ago we saw, because we saw it opening weekend 2024. It cost us $87 for 2 tickets, popcorn, 2 drinks, and 1 candy.
Apparently, you shouldn't go on a Friday.
Did they digitally insert you as an extra in the film?
No, and Gabe did not get a date with Emily Blunt, and I didn't get a date with Ryan Gosling either. But it was $87.
Would have been great.
Like, we actually had a really good time at the movie theater. It was fun. The movie was entertaining. We left feeling like, okay, we had a good time. I don't know if it was worth $87, but we had a good time. And that was the only thing we complained about was the money. So, whatever.
Okay. All right. I don't go to the flicks nearly as often as I used to. It has to be a movie that screams to me, you must see this in the theater. So I may also be a little skewed on this. I think the last movie I saw in the cinema was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, I think was the title of it. When I saw the Flash movie, I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and they were okay. There was a good time. I went during a matinee, so I didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. But the last time I was on the edge of my seat entertained, I think, was Ghostbusters Afterlife, because I had waited 37 years or more for that film to finally come out, and the whole time I'm just watching, I was 7 years old again. It was everything that I wanted that movie to be, and I went at night, and it was worth taking out a loan on my car, a title loan to get the big popcorn with the Cheetos in it. And
Cheetos in it?
Oh, it's a miracle of science.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Cheetos actually in popcorn.
Never heard of such a thing.
Oh, it's brilliant. But that was the last time when I'm like, this is worth going at night and spending the money to see a movie.
And isn't it a great feeling when you go to the movies and you feel like, okay, I'm walking out of here on air because I actually felt like it transported me. It entertained me in a way that was like Hollywood should do.
Yeah.
But it's just too few and far between now for that.
And I also know, really quick for the record, my choice was a franchise choice, and your choice was a remake of a TV show. Neither one of them were original ideas.
No, that's true.
So maybe we'll try again this weekend and go see
Clown in a Cornfield?
No, I never. Anyone who votes for Clown in the Cornfield in my DMs as the movie that they're voting for with this poll question will be banned from watching the Oddcast forever and ever.
Is it Clown in a Cornfield or Clown in the Cornfield?
Does it matter?
It's just in case I go see it.
Yeah, Gabe, you will watch that movie with a giant drink in front of your face because you don't like scary movies.
That's true. But
so
you know what?
We'll go see Mission Impossible 200 this weekend.
Yeah, I don't like scary movies. To paraphrase a movie we saw at what was then the Ritz 16, the Pirates of the Caribbean, which we thought, wow, we walked out of it thinking, wow, boy, did Johnny Depp act above the material. This is unbelievable. We love that movie. But the line in that movie, I don't like scary movies because I'm in one.
Is that how you describe living in Hammonton?
Look, in general, but you know that line from the fight, you must believe in ghost stories. You're in one, he says to her, Barbosa. But I love that. That's
a great movie.
But that's 24 years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time.
Give me some Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty good.
And Ocean's 11, a 13, even 12. I'll even take Ocean's 12.
I won't take 12. 13 was good. Ocean's 11 had the rare distinction of being one of the few remakes that I think surpassed the original.
Yeah. No remake of Annie has come anywhere near the
original
one with Albert Finney.
No, you can't top him as Daddy Warbucks, clearly.
Yeah.
But speaking of movies, did you feel like last Friday, especially Joe, because Gabe, you were not in town. Last Friday, you were living in a movie. Did you feel like
Oh,
you were in Twister? Which, by the way, if it is on TV and I am scrolling and I come across it, I will stop and watch it because of the tornado warning. Did you feel that way? I know I called you. I was worried about you.
You
oh,
did. You were the first person to call, and I appreciated that.
Got to protect the talent.
Yeah, I was sitting there at work, and then suddenly the skies got black, like the street lights in the yard came on, and I've never seen that during the day. And then I get alert after alert. You call, and then another friend of mine called, and then I'm like, okay, if I hear the freight train coming, I'm going to get under my desk. I was in a block building. The roof isn't blocked, and we had 200 and some odd trees that could go right through the roof, whether the block be damned.
yeah.
But yeah, it was wild. I can't remember the last tornado warning we've had in Hammonton. It's been a while.
Yeah, and Gina sent it to me. I was in Ocean City, which also got black as night. Black, black. You thought it was 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I was laughing because I thought it was initially, she sent it to me because it was for Ocean City. Because why else would you? But she wanted me to know, okay, this is what's going on in
I
Hammonton.
was home alone with the dog, and the dog was
Yes,
freaking
yeah.
out. Wanted to let my husband know what was going on.
I appreciate it. But at first I thought, geez, oh my God, she's letting me know. That's really nice of her. And then I looked down and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not. And I felt bad for where I was because I had freaked all of them out because they thought there was Ocean City was having a tornado, which would never happen, really. I don't think.
Would
Oh,
it be a
who knows?
typhoon?
If it came over the ocean, if it came that way.
Yeah, I
But
mean, who
look, I'm
knows?
glad you sent it because once I figured it out, I was like, oh. And then I called Gina. I was like, okay, how are we? What's going on? But it's nature, the derecho. Gina was sitting in one of our advertisers, one of our sponsors locations, Hamilton Family Eye Care, when the derecho came at on a straight line, obviously, to Peachtree Plaza.
Huh.
Gina,
Hamilton Family Eye Care. I was getting my glasses.
right?
That was what, 2011, 2012?
Something like that.
Yeah.
You just don't know. Whenever anyone who thinks they're powerful out there, let me help you with something besides just what the poem "Mending Wall, Good Fences Make Good Neighbors" is all about. I will also tell you this: if you think you're powerful, watch a tornado. You're not
Yeah.
at
So,
all.
according to reports, an EF0 tornado with winds up to 75 miles an hour caused severe damage in Collings Lakes, and according
Mhm.
to the National Weather Service, at around 1 p.m. on May 16th. So it will not bring out Helen Hunt and the tornado people, but it was a confirmed tornado. And a gentleman who lives there said he was outside when a tree struck his neighbor's home, hit some power lines, and knocked out the electricity on his block. Mr. Al Baker said it was unbelievable. He told the news, NBC 10, I believe, and he says, "Can I now say I survived a tornado?"
Yeah.
And according to NBC 10, the homeowner where the tree struck, she was inside her home with her pets, and no injuries were reported. So again, we did have it. It was a little scary. Like I said, it got really dark really
Yeah.
fast, and I'm on a Teams call. What is going on? And I'm looking outside the window, and our dog had been under my desk for the last 20 minutes because she knew what was going on long before
Smart.
my alerts came out across the phone.
Yeah,
So
it was funny that you called to check on me to make sure that I was not outside in the land of trees, because it's not exactly someplace you want to be when there's a possibility of a tornado. And this tornado hit on Canes Mill Road, in between, like it was a block away from the fire company. Who expects a tornado to make landfall for a full minute on Canes Mill Road, of all places? This does
no,
not happen in this area.
It's
no.
just strange, and it just made a somewhat odd week more odd.
Well, this is
Yeah,
the Jersey Oddcast.
that's why we're here. But it just seems to me like these are some odd times we're living in, and when you think about weather, it's completely unpredictable. Like you said, Joe, who would have thought that?
Yeah.
No.
That's where that would go.
I was at the Hamden Education Foundation Ladies Night Bingo, and we were talking to a bunch of teachers there, and they were telling us about the different shelters in place kind of things that they did. The elementary school went into the hallways until it
Okay.
was cleared, but the high school didn't have that option because if you think about the high school, a lot of the hallways have the giant windows
Hmm.
either end, so that would have been dangerous. So they were in their classrooms and they moved closer to the wall. and because their blinds are down, they felt that was the safest option.
Okay.
So they all took precautions, and it was a little scary, but we got through it. So, Joe, what is the weather looking like for this week? Are we going to have another Wizard of Oz moment?
I don't believe that we're going to have another Wizard of Oz moment. It is actually looking unseasonably odd, and since you asked, it sounds like it's time for the Oddcast forecast according to the app on my smartphone, and sponsored by Ben Castone Landscaping. Call Ben Castone for all your landscaping needs at 609-561-3452. They're here to keep your yard looking great no matter what the season, and no matter what the weather, how weird it is. Case in point, for Wednesday, we're looking at a 75% chance of rain on and off throughout the day, and we're looking at a high of 57 with a low of 51. So that's a little unseasonably
That
cool.
sounds like March weather.
Yes, and Thursday doesn't fare much better. About a 50% chance of rain in the morning, a high of 58 and a low of 47. Friday gets a little bit closer to where we should be this time of year, but we're still on the cool side with a high of 67 and a low of 49. So the oddness continues.
Well, thank you, Ben Castone, for that forecast. Joe, if people want to follow us, find us, where can they go?
Absolutely. For more information or for sponsorship opportunities, they can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or we're now on Bluesky. Listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or iHeartRadio. They can email us at jerseyoddcast@gmail.com or call us at 609-444-6178.
Thanks, Joe. This has been another great episode of the Jersey Oddcast. If you love what you heard, say it loud in the reviews or whisper it by buying a hat. All profits go to support the Mount Carmel Festival, and your karma will thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See you next week.
So long.